I actually typed all the scriptures out, so you don't have to say, oh, what is this? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go over it, and I'm going to ask you for suggestions of what you can do. And they're the things that you can write down. When I was at retreat, and on the schedule it said tea scriptures, I thought we were having a tea. But we weren't. But we weren't. So that's why I decided we needed tea to go with our tea scriptures.
Well, you've gone through a lot of trouble, Mary Sue. All the stuff you packed up and brought home to my house.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Can you stand over there?
Oh, I guess I can.
Thank you.
All right. So when you first heard me say we were going to study the tea scriptures, did anybody have any idea what it was before looking at your bookmark? Yeah, I didn't either. So when I was at retreat, I had no idea. But then when they gave us the bookmark, and I'm like, oh. So we're going to start accountability. Romans 14:12 says, so then each one of us shall give account of himself to God. And as you all know, the way the world's going, I think more people should be have accountability for their actions. But that's what we need to do. We need to be accountable to God. So, we're thinking of Him always, and we can be accountable to Him while we're going through our daily lives. Okay, the next one, adversity. 2 Corinthians 12:10. Therefore I am well content with weakness, with insults, with distresses, with persecutions, with difficulties, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Now, the world we live in today, there's lots of adversity. We have a lot of things to go against, and the devil tries to get us in every turn, every time we think we're doing the right thing. So, that's one thing we have to really strive to, I'm not sure of the word I want to use. Strive to be able to combat that. Is that a good word? I don't know. Honesty, Ephesians 4:25. Therefore, laying aside falsehood, speak truth, each one of you, with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Honesty, that is one thing. You turn on the TV, you turn on the internet, and most of it is not honest.
And you pick up the newspaper.
Well, and even though the reporters go to where they're learning this information, half the time it comes off wrong. And it's amazing how many times they get stuff messed up. People's names, the facts, and, we need to be more like Joe Friday. Just the facts, ma'am. But, that's the thing, the way the world is.
Make the picture look somebody else instead of somebody else's voices now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep, and, we have to remember, we have to be honest if we want other people to be honest with us. But you have to sort of take it with a grain of salt when you listen to somebody nowadays. Because, like I said, there's a reporter that I know that comes into Montour County, and she's the reporter for the Press Enterprise. And she shares the love of books with me, and we share books back and forth. But on more than one occasion in the past couple of months, I have read articles of hers, and I'm like, that's not what is going on. You have it all mixed up. And I'm just like, how did she get this so mixed up? You know what I mean? Like they were putting on, she was writing about St. Cyril's were selling out to their property to Geisinger. And originally they were trying to sell the property where the mansion is. And that's called the villa or the mansion. And then the other big building where the school was and the kindergarten and preschool is, that's called the mother house. In her write-up, she was calling the mansion the mother house, and she was calling everything the wrong names. And it was very confusing because they weren't selling the mother house at the time. And she kept saying that they were. And so then everybody was getting all confused on, what are they selling? Even though they ended up selling behind Maria Hall. But now the whole thing's up for sale. But anyways, that's the thing. We need to be honest. And I just get aggravated when people aren't honest with me and I know they're lying. Just like your grandkids. You know they're lying when they said I didn't do it and they were the only one there. And it's like, I didn't do it. And I'm like, you're the only person that's been in here. Well, who do you think else did it? We have a ghost or something.
There is a lot.
But trying to get kids to understand why you have to be honest, I think is a real challenge these days because they see so much make-believe on TV, video games. I don't think they understand what real life really is sometimes. Some of these kids, like my one grandson, that's all he thinks about is video games. And he's going to be 15 in a week or two. And so, they're just like, you have to get a job. Even though he's going to be 15, his stepmom found a place where he could get a job. And she said he's got to stop, having his head in video games because he has to grow up. So that's where I think a lot of the problem with kids is things aren't real. And they're in la-la land sometimes. Anyway,
Part is they may hear adults have conversations about whether what we're hearing is honest or not. And with the politicians, again,
Don't
and
start
again,
politicians.
and again.
right, and a lot of that is, I watch the debates and I sit there and I get so angry.
Me too.
Who needs?
You want to divide everybody, make them all keep in a thought.
Oh,
But, yeah, I mean,
Clear back in Socrates' time, he said, give a man a little power and their head is easily turned.
boy, was he right.
It goes for everybody.
generosity. Luke 6:38. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, they will pour into your lap. For by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you in return. Has anybody ever experienced this?
Oh, yeah.
Our church is experiencing that big time.
Mm-hmm. Many years ago, when my husband and I, his work was not that great, I remember taking food to a food drive, and then I was blessed with a food box. I was very, I guess, humbled. But, I'm like, oh, like I didn't expect it, but I felt like I could afford a little bit to give. And, another thing I think I shared one other time, this is probably not really generosity, well, kind of. Back in 2008, I had to go back to work more like full time. And so I found a job, but my transmission went out on my car because my kid decided to do something stupid with it. And there I had a job and no way to get to work. Well, my husband wasn't making a lot of money at that time either. So my friend, we weren't going anywhere extra. And my friend Debbie, she says to me, she goes, why don't you come up to the early bird sports expo up at the fairgrounds? It's in the winter. And I said, can't really afford it. And she goes, no, you don't have to spend any money. She goes, Fred, her husband, was having a stand there with his work. And she goes, I have free tickets. You don't have to spend no money. And I'm like, okay, be something to do. So my husband and I went and went in. And when you first walked in, they gave you a card to fill out and put it in a box for a drawing for a four-wheeler. You could win a four-wheeler. Well, that was on a Friday, I think. The expo was over on a Sunday. Sunday afternoon, I was at the computer doing something, and the phone rang. And I answered the phone, and this man said, I'm looking for Mary Sue Jones. I said, that's me. He goes, you want a four-wheeler? And I'm like, what? And I said, I won what? And he goes, four-wheeler at the expo. And I'm like, oh. He said, but, he goes, if you don't want it, I will give you cash. And I sat there and I said, can I think about it for a little bit? And he goes, sure, call me back. And I thought about it and I thought, oh, it would have been nice to have a second four-wheeler. And now I'm thinking, but I need a transmission for my car. And I thought, a four-wheeler's not going to get me to work. So anyways,
That's a close by, you live for a while around close.
I called him back and I said, I will take the cash because I need a transmission in my car. I said, things haven't been very good. And I said, you know, I can get a transmission and maybe put some money on a bill or something. Well, this is where the generosity comes in. I went to meet the man like a day or two later at the business where he had. And when I walked in, I told him who I was. He handed me an envelope. And I was supposed to get $3,000 in place of the four-wheeler. There was $3,500 in there. He gave that to me. He was being generous because he heard me say I was having a hard time. So, you know, there are people out there that will help you when you're in need. And I felt that that was a God thing.
Yeah.
Because I needed it so bad. And with that money, I got my transmission fixed, and I was able to catch a bill or two up, and then we were okay.
Wow.
So I think of that when I think of generosity. Availability, Isaiah 6:8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, here I am, send me. How many times has somebody asked you to do something, and you're like, I don't know, might have something going on, I'm not really sure I want to say yes to that. But, you know, it might be something easy, but it's like sometimes we just don't want to put ourselves out there because, you know, there might be something better come along. But, like, Jamie and I went last year and bought gifts for the teens down at Haven Ministry. And, you know, I wasn't sure what we were going to buy, and we were kind of just winging it. And, you know, we had the greatest time. And delivering those gifts down to Haven Ministry, that was quite a blessing for us as well as them because they appreciated it so much. And, you know, we have to be more available to God to do the things that He wants us to do. And I told Vaughn back in the summer before nominating committee, I contacted him and I said, I do not want to be a deacon this coming year, and I'm not sure I want to be assistant treasurer. And I said, I just don't think I want to do it this year. And then, after going to retreat, all kinds of things were going through my mind, and this past fall, my whole life just seemed like I got lighter. And I got happier. And I'm like, well, why don't I want to do that? You know? And I thought about it, and I'm like, I do want to do it. And so when they called me, I'm like, sure, I'll do it. Because, I don't know, I was in a bad place at the beginning of summer. And so I do believe that God changed my mind because I was dead set. I told the ladies at work, I said, not going to be involved with stuff at church this year. I said, just not doing it. and I was going to be treasurer of Dorcas, and that was it. And then, and I told my husband and everybody, and just don't want to do it this year.
So you lied.
Well, no,
No.
I changed my mind.
I'm teasing you.
I changed my mind, or God changed
I
my
know it
mind.
changed your mind
Yes.
for you.
I think God changed my mind,
Yeah.
and I remember going to work, and I told the lady who I told her that I wasn't going to be involved in anything, and she goes, "I thought you weren't going to do that," and I said, "I changed my mind." And I said, "I do want to do it, after all." So, that just means, we need to be available when He needs us, and that was, I guess, what came to me. I needed to be available. Humility, 1 Peter 5:5. You younger men, likewise, be subject to your elders, and all of you clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, for God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Does anybody have any suggestions on humility?
Keep the eye out of pride.
Yep, and
Don't
we
let
have
your head get all puffed up when somebody says, "Thank you for doing that." Just say, "You're welcome," and not seem like it's really easy to say, "Oh wow, I was really good at that. I think I could do even better and get even more famous or whatever."
yeah,
No, just stay humble.
not
likes
be
a
on a
humble
pedestal
person.
because
It's for
anybody
the
that's
Lord.
up on a pedestal sometimes
Right.
falls off. But yeah, we have to be humble. We can't just think we're better than everybody else because we're not.
One thing I noticed with some of my neighbors, when I do a little something for them or give them something, they say, "Well, I don't feel like I'm worthy." And I said, "Yes, you're worthy, or I wouldn't do it for you, You're my friend, you come to help me when I need help, so why wouldn't I want to do something for you once in a while? It isn't much at this stage of my life that I can do, but what little bit I can, I try to help."
Mm-hmm.
But when they say that to me, I say, "You're kind of hurting my feelings when you say that, because it makes me feel good that I can do something for you too. Because I appreciate the help that you've given me."
Well, one thing in my life that irritates me, and it's kind of the same thing but a little bit flip, my husband can cook very well, and he makes some wonderful meals. And whenever he makes a good meal, something really spectacular, and I'm like, "That was really good. You did a really good job." And he'll go, "It'll make a turd." And I'm like, "Stop that." And I said, "Why can't you just take the compliment when I'm trying to give it to you?" But he doesn't think anything he does is great. Just like he has a show truck. That is really, really nice. And people always tell him that. But he doesn't believe it. He doesn't think it is, because to him, he's not that special. And to him, he doesn't think his truck is special. And he doesn't think his cooking is that special.
Was it maybe part of his childhood that he wasn't treated very special as a child?
Yes, that is probably a lot of it. Because they were very, very poor. And, the mom didn't
praise him when they needed a little praise, maybe.
well, she wasn't around much. And his dad died when he was 6, so there wasn't a man figure. And you're right, it was probably a lot that nobody ever said he did anything good when he was younger. But even though we've been together 34 years, he still won't believe me that he's a great cook.
Even though we tell him,
Yes.
"You smoked macaroni and cheese
Oh, he
out of this world."
He just made another one.
And his
that's fabulous.
cheeseburgers, oh my
my
gosh.
But yeah, unity. Oh, I missed one. Hospitality. That's the most important. Hospitality. Be hospitable to one another without complaint. When we were at retreat, we learned all about hospitality. And there was even this little song we had to sing, and I was so embarrassed. It was kind of weird. They had these pineapples. They were like, not a real pineapple, but like something you buy at the Dollar Tree or something, and it was a pineapple, and there were several of them. Well, they handed them out, and they taught us the song, and then they said you had to go find somebody, hold up your pineapple, and then the two of you had to sing this song. I don't know if I remember it.
I have to look at my notes because I was going to do that with people in the church, and I forgot all about it because everything else took over.
I can only remember the part that said, God told us
To practice
hospitality, but you had to sing it.
And what was the scripture?
Romans
8:13 or something
like that. Yeah, but you had to stand here and you had to find somebody who didn't already do it.
Different people.
Because then once you did it, you sat down. I was the last person, and so was Pat Young. Pat Young and I were the last persons holding a pineapple. And there wasn't anybody around standing. And there was one lady who couldn't stand. And they're like, go to her. And I'm like, I just couldn't do it. So then we had to keep those pineapples. And we had to find somebody the next day to do that, to get rid of your pineapple. You didn't want to keep your pineapple.
We did it both days. We just kept doing it.
So I said to Pat, I said, let's go ambush Jamie and Debbie when they wake up. Well, she didn't book out with me, but I ran down there and I ambushed Debbie Marker. And then she went and ambushed Roberta Brochus, and she couldn't move because she had her leg all up because something was wrong with her leg, and it was swollen and stuff, and so she couldn't get away. So she got stuck with the pineapple, and Pat still had hers the whole next day. I guess she never got around. But you know what? At first I was really kind of like, because I'm not one of those kind of people that go out, because I didn't really know anybody at that point. By the time we got done retreat, I knew a lot of people, and I really had a great time, and I can't wait to go back again. So, I mean, I got to talk with some of the people who were like in charge and like were the speakers up front and everything. And I had a nice conversation with one of them when everybody else was doing something else. So they were playing Skip-Mo. And so, you know, it's like I put myself out there and I made myself go talk to this lady. And I'm like, I can do this. And I just went to a total stranger and just talked to her. And we shared, and I thought it was great. And I thought I grew that day in my spirit, you know, whatever, can't say. Unity, Ephesians 4:2-3. With all humility and gentleness, with patience showing forbearance to one another, in love. Mm-hmm. Being diligent to preserve the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Well, unity. We're united right here. Mm-hmm. You know, we're gathering around to learn a little bit more or reviewing. You all know all this stuff already. It's not anything new, but doing it together sometimes makes it easier. And being united, you can be united in your family, you can be united in doing something great, like we were united by gathering all that food at the church the past 2 Sundays. If we wouldn't unite and bring it together, we could never help out all those people. Mm-hmm. And even the money that we bring in to help the different missions and so on. So, you know, some people don't like being united. They like to do things on their own. And my husband is a good example of that. He always says he doesn't have any friends. And I'm like, you have friends, you just won't be a friend. And I could not get him to understand. It's not that you don't have friends, it's that you won't put yourself out there to be a friend. Well, I think this is one of the reasons why the second half of our summer went so well is when we go to these truck shows, I'm always like, I'm so bored. Because it would be just the two of us sitting there. You know, we'd walk around together, but we would look at the same thing every time we'd walk around, and it was just him and I. Well, not anymore. Now we join in with a group, and now everything seems so much more fun. And actually, we've been invited to other people's homes now because the one guy said, "Oh, how about this winter when we're all kind of bored and everything because there's no truck shows? How about you come to my house and we'll have," he's Italian, so he says pasta and gravy, which he means sauce. But no, that's what Italians call sauce. They call it gravy. And I'm just like, oh wow. I'm like, Freddie's going to invite us to his home. And actually, I don't think Freddie invited us, but somebody else is planning something at Freddie's house, and we're going there December 9th. And we're going to meet up with a lot of the truck people that we hang out with in the summer. So I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Getting him out there once.
Well, you know, he's finally realizing that doing stuff with other people is fun. And, you know, sitting at home by yourself is boring, and you feel like you're nobody when you're sitting at home. And I've been trying to get him to come do things for years, and it was just like, oh, I don't want to. But now, and he even calls the one fella that's our truck friends, he said, I think Dale is my best friend. And he goes, I think I might be his too. And I'm like, oh. And he said, yeah, because Dale did something for Smoke that he never expected. And, you know, and now Smoke does favors for Dale and everything. And it's like nothing for them just to call one another up and say, hey, you know, we live over this way. And if Dale needs something from Western Pennsylvania, he'll say, can you go out there and pick that up for me? And, you know, and vice versa. Dale has gotten stuff that Smoke needed. And he doesn't live around here. I mean, he lives over near Easton, Pennsylvania.
Mm.
All the truck people that we hang with are from either different states or opposite end of the state. So, you know, it's interesting, though, that we all just get along so great, though.
But you put it out. You started perhaps to open up. And it's kind of neat that he's been able to. You may have encouraged without knowing it, girl. Good for you.
Maybe. Beauty, 1 Peter 3:3-4. And let not your adornment be merely external, braiding the hair and weaving gold jewelry or putting on dresses, but let it be the hidden person of the heart, with the imperishable quality of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is precious in the sight of God. Now, we all know people who dress to the nines and, you know, they don't go out of their house without makeup, and they don't, you know, they dress all up and think they are somebody because they do that. But that's not what God wants us to do. He wants us to be good people, but he wants us to do it quietly. You know, he doesn't want us to show off and say, ooh, look at me, I have a pearl necklace, or I have this. Because that's not what he wants.
Discreetly.
Yes.
And it's okay to dress up and go out and stuff, but you're not flaunting it.
Right. And there are many, many people that I know that do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, when I dress up, I'm not trying to flaunt nothing. I'm just trying to look better than I did.
Every hair has to be in place and everything has to match from the skin out.
Some people are like that. And I know a woman who's, was a school teacher. She was an art teacher, and she had really bad acne when she was a kid. So she put on makeup like you would not believe. And I went to a conference with her many, many years ago, and we shared a room, and she She was in the bathroom for like an hour, and I'm like, what are you doing in there? And here she was putting all this makeup on, and I'm just like, holy crap. I have makeup, but I don't feel like I put it on very well, so I rarely wear makeup.
I was sitting here smiling when you were reading this, because when my husband and I were married, my Elwood's aunt showed a picture at her work where she worked to the girls that she worked with, and she said, "Oh, he's so good looking. He looks like Elvis. How did she ever get somebody so good looking? She's nothing." And I said, and she told us this. Now she claimed Elwood was outspoken, but she told me this, you know. And Elwood said, "And you call me outspoken? And you're telling my wife this?" And I said, "Will you go back and you tell him that the beauty's on the inside of me, not on the outside."
Yeah.
So she did. And she said, "Boy, did their mouths hang open."
Well, there's too many people who, you know, might dress all up, but then when they open their mouth, you're like, oh my gosh. Because what comes out is usually, you know, sometimes not very nice to hear, and their attitude can be really rotten. But you might have somebody who just stays in the corner, you know, and they don't fuss with themselves, but they might be the nicest person and very
I said,
giving
"What you see is
person.
what you get."
Mm.
Me too.
That's my mantra.
You know, I have to say though, having grown up with, you know, almost like a taboo with makeup and some of this stuff, when I hit high school and nursing school and whatnot, I almost had a prejudice against expecting that everybody who was all dolled up and very put together was going to be. I have to tell you, a lot of it is the attitude. Many of us work with people, but a lot of it is the attitude you put forward too. Not always, because we've all met those people who are, like you said, and think they're better than. But you know, there are a lot of people, depending on how you approach or how you are, the comfort that you have will make a difference in their responses and their comfort. Thank goodness, because you have to think about, Lewisburg's an unusual place. And having worked 100 years there, you see anything and everything from Amish to professors to professionals to normal people, you know, to other cultures. And the craziness in this world now between the who's a woman and who's a man and what do you want to be is, that's really tough for me, I won't lie to you. But anyway, it's just such an unusual place. And you just, I think then it comes to, I am who I am. What you see is what you get. And sometimes I think the response to that, or maybe I'm just so dumb, I don't know that they think I'm nuts, but that might be.
Are you normal?
But it sort of stands you in good stead sometimes. It's a tough one. I had a time in my teenage years where someone who was in the church challenged, should we be wearing anything other than dresses? Should we be allowed to wear jewelry?
Mm-hmm.
Should we be allowed to put any makeup on? And I disagreed. If you still are you, and you're not out there just throwing your stuff around, baloney. If you want to feel better and you're doing it well, and you're not wearing things cut down to your belly button and whatnot. I had a couple of rounds with a couple of different people in a different generation or two about that. It's I don't believe always that sometimes people can make the Bible say what they want it to say.
Oh, yeah.
True.
You can only wear dresses and wear no makeup, but if your heart isn't in the right place, it doesn't matter what you're wearing.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if I have
Absolutely.
pants on if my heart isn't in the right place.
Right.
Uh-huh.
As long as, like you say, you're still dressing modestly and not, you know, not everything's hanging out, but.
Yeah.
Yep, that's very good.
Mhm.
Royalty, 1 Peter 2:9. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. But you didn't think you were royalty, did you?
I feel like royalty today, having. This is a lovely thing, you've done a great job.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Mary Sue.
Thank you.
It's very good.
Oh, now we can get to business.
Very inspired. Oops, I gotta turn this off now.